We're getting the party started on a Tuesday night. What's the weather like in Minneapolis, Joe? Is that where you are right now?
Orlando.
You're in Orlando.
Yes, it is. It's nice.
Yeah, we'll be jealous.
I know,
We'll be jealous.
right?
Orlando would be fabulous.
Imagine I'm not the only one south of Minneapolis.
Yeah. Well, and so we fly out Wednesday for Vegas, and weather's not going to be too phenomenal there. I was a little disappointed in myself. I'm like, jeans and a hoodie, but
Yep.
it'll be fine.
Yeah. At least it's not a parka and winter clothes, right?
Right? I don't have to wear my insulated, leggings and my 4 layers and heated gloves and all that stuff. So it'll be good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little south. Little south. Still cool.
Yeah. So it should be good. I'm excited. My first true vacation in 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you taking her phone, Kristen? Yeah.
She should take my phone.
Change the password on your mail apps for 4
Right?
days.
It's so funny.
Just change all our
I had to
passwords.
change the notification sound on my phone because I think I've become so immune to it that I just don't even hear it anymore.
Fair.
So I actually had to change the pinging sound. So now I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be annoyed with it soon and then I'll change it back.
Yeah, that should be like a rotating one, right?
Yep.
Based on your responses.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how immune you get to that, but yeah, no. So yeah, my first real vacation, we're not going to see family, like there's no wedding, like it's an actual, my daughter and I just gonna go and spend some quality time and make some memories. So
Exciting stuff.
yeah.
All right. So Eve, do you want to introduce Joe here and how we know him?
Well, I certainly can. First off, thank you all for spending a Tuesday night with us at Dog Handler Academy. As an entrepreneur, time is everything. So just want to be very gracious of you all joining in. Social media backlash and bad reviews. I think if you haven't already been there, done that, you will at some point. It's not a question of will it happen, it's when it will happen. So it's something that you'll deal with, whether it's a disgruntled employee or a client or whatever it might be. Mr. Joe Meyers, who is joining us, is from Share Digital Marketing Agency. We actually met several years ago at Super Zoo, and we had a booth with our poop macaroon cookies that you came to see.
Delicious. Delicious as always.
They were fabulous. And we started up a great conversation, and we've really looked to you, Joe, for a lot of marketing guru stuff. Joe is the creator of the Marketing 101 course that Dog Handler Academy puts out and we sell to help anybody who is looking to figure out how do you navigate marketing, like how do you do an Instagram post, how do you do TikTok? And by the way, don't ask me to ever comment on an Instagram post because I have no idea how to actually do it. I will look at your post, I will giggle at it. You can send me all the funny ones, but I literally have no idea how to like respond to them. So I'm sure my 13-year-old will teach me on the airplane maybe. Or I will go through my course if I really feel I need to. So with that, we are going to get into barking back with grace with Mr. Joe. Mr. Joe, give us a little 411 on how many years you've been doing this. How many, what was your background that got you into this crazy thing? I know you were part of Dog TV back in the day.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Eve and Kristen and the entire Dog Handler Academy team. Love you guys. Been fantastic partnership ever since those poop shaped macaroons those many years ago. So I've done marketing my entire career. So started off in corporate America on Target's digital marketing team. And then my shoulders were tapped for a pet technology startup around 10 years ago, if I can believe it now, called Pet Chats. It's a two-way digital dog camera. And it's still the #1 result when you look up like pet technology on Google. And so that thing went crazy viral when I was in the helm as the director of marketing. And then when that company got acquired, I kind of branched off, and I love helping entrepreneurs. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love working with small mom and pop businesses and small teams. And we were talking before, I like winning and working with brands and helping people win. So been running the agency for around 6 years now, 6 or 7 years now, working with small one operator to large teams as well, and working on their digital marketing, kind of all elements of it, from website design to creating digital ads and Facebook ads, and then also strategizing about the topic we're going to dive in today about reviews, how to handle those on scale, how to handle certain PR crises, kind of handling the whole thing. So this is a near and dear topic to me, and so I'm excited to dive into it.
Yay. Yeah, you've definitely run the gamut in the marketing world, and we love bringing you on to the Dog Handler Academy roller coaster of fun, visiting our trade shows. And I know that you've talked with and met so many dog daycare owners and boarding facilities and dog trainers over the course of the years. And I'm sure we all at some point have come to you and said, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" So without further ado, get into what do we do, sir?
I'm excited for it. So if I'm going to open up a little presentation here. I really want this to be a conversation. We have a lot of tips and tricks. I'll be able to share the deck and this recording with you guys later. If you have any questions that are, kind of relevant to the current topic, please add them into the comments, and Kristen will mitigate them, and we'll pause and address them. If you have any personal things, maybe you have a crisis going on right now, or a personal question, my email will be at the presentation. You can reach out to me, and I'd love to handle some more like detailed stuff. Obviously, if you don't want to have your business out there in the current crisis that's happening, or something that potentially is there. So let's dive into it. So I'm going to open up my screen. And Christine, can you tell me when people can see it?
I can see your screen.
Excellent. Awesome. So quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. A little intro to me, a little more detail there. Then we're going to kind of understand social media backlash. Like, what does this really mean? What am I dealing with? And we have some golden rules of responding. These are pretty universal, on like what to do, what not to do, when to yell into a paper bag versus actually hitting post. And then we're going to dive into dealing with bad reviews. I know as a business owner myself, you want everything to go perfect all the time. Sometimes it doesn't. And understanding that. And then number 5 here, crisis control. Sometimes things outside of your control happen, especially when we're dealing with, dogs and pets and animals and health and a whole bunch of stuff, and understanding really how to understand that their damage could be caused, but it's both proactive and reactive in there. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions that are kind of relevant to each of these sections, please feel free, add them to the chat. We'll stop if it makes sense. If not, I'll handle them offline. But at the end, we'll have some time for some general Q&A, and we're a community here, I think, here at Dog Handler Academy. And so if you've done things in the past and want to share those at the end, tools, resources, apps that you've worked with, please add those into the chat. The more we share, the better we all are. And maybe there's a tool that you just used for the last 6 months and you've crushed it on it. So, love for you to share those in there, and so people find value in that. So,
we can certainly go over my dilemma that I had a few years back. So we'll cover that one.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Awesome. So quick overview of kind of the difference here. There's bad reviews versus a PR crisis. So we're going to split those into two. Basically, not all of your negative reviews are a PR crisis. Somebody coming in and giving you 3 stars is not a full-blown PR crisis. If you've gone through And we have with our clients gone through full-blown PR crises. Like the New York Times was calling them on the phone, and they were getting 1,000 bad reviews an hour. Those are PR crises. One bad review, although it feels very big, that's when we want to address it and, kind of address it in a different way. But we want to make sure that you can handle both of those with confidence. And understanding that, kind of in this world, how you handle these responses, this criticism, this is a critical part of your business. This can be certainly not make or break it at times, but you can have a lot of time of rebuilding, growing, and rebuilding trust as you continue on. So it's kind of understand the difference there and understand that like a lot of this stuff is forever, but I think with a good plan, with a good strategy, some golden rules to apply, you guys will be fine moving forward. So as Eve and team have kind of outlined, worked with them on their business marketing course 101. I know some people have taken it and really enjoyed it. And again, I do own an agency called Share Marketing Agency, and we specialize in pet businesses, soup to nuts. Certainly focus on growing businesses, but sometimes we redo websites and do social ads, creating platforms, creating apps, kind of whatever's needed for our clients to find success.
Look at you using some of those key buzzwords in there, Joe.
I love it. I love it. And so I've worked exclusively with pet businesses. Again, I kind of started at Target, went to a startup, and then I've worked with a ton of brands, proven results. This is a very small industry, and so we've been running my agency for many years now, based